where my society came from, where I came from in a religious and theological way. I was never interested in going into the ministry. For one thing, I was married to a man who was ordained, and I thought, I can't inflict two ministers in one family on our children. I was interested in, among other things, the development of images and stories and ideas over a lengthy period of time, because in the Old Testament, you find parts of it that are written 1,000 years apart. You find these ideas that are persistent and that keep cropping up and also change, but yet in recognizable ways. That's what interested me. Well, when I finished that, I had two small kids and a husband who was wistfully looking at retirement, because my own husband was considerably older than I. And I thought, I can't really justify going and doing an actual PhD, because I would have been at least 7 or 8 years on just the languages for what I wanted to do. While the kids were small, while Noel was finishing up at university, I started writing stories and thought, it's worth a try. I might be able to sell something. I might justify sticking at home and not going back to school. I was very, very lucky in that I sold a book before I had to actually go out and get a job. So that's how I started. Having said that, a lot of the, especially the early stories that I did, have themes to do with either religion or theology. I wrote a book in the contemporary Kate Martinelli cop series with a main character who is a holy fool to play the fool. I used my MA thesis material on Monstrous Regiment of Women, the second of the Russell and Holmes series, when Mary Russell meets a woman who is in a religious group in London. This is in the early 20s. Turns out to be a mystic. So you have these books that crop up. It's always a tricky thing to use theology and religion because they are so deeply personal to people. You have to be fair on both sides. That is, you can't use the novel that they're in as any kind of a soapbox. That is, you cannot say, this is what you should be believing, because that just kills the story dead. However, you have to be able to show why your characters believe this and why they have a passionate attachment to this, that, or the other belief or act. So it makes for another area of human endeavor that you can employ in writing crime fiction. One of the reasons I love crime fiction is that the scope is just enormous. You can write a mystery about stamp collecting, about human trafficking, about an ancient papyrus. It's an interesting genre.
Yes, it is. I absolutely enjoyed In the Company of Sherlock Holmes. Would you and Leslie Klinger ever take on another compilation of Sherlock Holmes-inspired stories?
Oh, I am so pleased you asked. Our 5th one will be published in December. Can you believe? Good. How to explain Leslie Klinger? Les Klinger is a friend. He is a devout Sherlockian. He's made a literary profession out of annotations. He has the annotated Sherlock Holmes, a 3-volume. He has the annotated Dracula, the annotated American Gods. If it sits still long enough, he'll annotate it. He has so many friends in the mystery world that we started asking them if they would write stories that were inspired by the Sherlock Holmes canon. Now, these are people who don't write Sherlock Holmes stories. And inevitably, they will say, oh, I don't know anything about Sherlock Holmes, really, but I'd love to try. And they will produce these fabulous stories that are either deeply researched or just plain brilliant. The variety is just amazing. So we started out with A Study in Sherlock. Then we went to the one you mentioned, In the Company of Sherlock Holmes. And these tend to come out every couple of years. Echoes of Sherlock Holmes was the 3rd one. For the Sake of the Game was our last one that was about 18 months ago. And this December will be In League with Sherlock Holmes. And they all have amazing writers, everyone from Anne Perry to Lee Child to David Morrell. All these people have been allowed to be bribed, bullied, and cajoled into writing a story that is somehow linked to the Sherlock Holmes stories, either a character. Some of them are straight pastiches. Some of them are subtle uses of a theme. Some of them will take a very minor character and let them run. Michael Sims wrote one that was from the horse's point of view, Silver Blaze. So I hope you enjoy it when it comes out in December.
When you think of Sherlock, you always think of the Victorian age, and these are some modern day stories. You get where we're going and how it's linked to Sherlock.
I don't think the pre-orders are up yet. If they are, I haven't seen them. If you keep an eye on my website, down at the bottom of my homepage on the laurierking.com, I think it's just second is In League with Sherlock Holmes. And we have a web page for it, which we will put all the names of the people and stories and order information when that comes in. So if you keep an eye on that, of course, I will mention it in my newsletter before that comes out too.
Wonderful. What about Kate Martinelli? Is she finished?
I don't think so. There's 5 novels, one of which is a sort of mixed novel because it has to do with a Sherlock Holmes story. I wrote a novella and published it in October, I think it was, called Beginnings, which has to do with the death of Kate's younger sister when Kate was an undergraduate student at Berkeley years ago, before the first of the novels that she's in. She comes across a piece of information that makes her question her understanding of her sister's death. And that opens up this fairly lengthy novella that I wrote. It sets groundwork for a novel that I haven't written, I haven't contracted, I haven't even thought about really, but will be written at some point, God willing, and the creeks don't rise.
That's how I first met your books with Kate Martinelli. I was hesitant to read Mary Russell when it came out because I thought, oh, Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
But I was smitten as soon as I started reading it.
Riviera Gold comes out on the 9th of June, and it's supposed to be out all over. I hear a rumor that the audio will be slightly delayed. I had been told that they finished all the stuff in the studio, and I had been told it was going to be simultaneous, but it may be delayed. I'm not quite sure. It'll be out sometime in June.
Who's doing the reading for that?
It's through Recorded Books, and it's Jenny Sterlin again.
Okay, good. She's good. I really enjoy her.
I love Jenny's reading, and I also like her as a person. She's a lovely person. That should be out on June 9th, and I will be doing various online events. I think during that week I have a Poison Pen live stream event on the Saturday before, which will be online afterwards. And I also have 1 or 2 events during that week. So anyone who is interested in seeing me face to face rather than just through a microphone darkly, as with a podcast, I will put those various things on the next newsletter. You can sign up.
Well, Laurie, we thank you so much for talking with us. We are huge fans of all your books.
Oh, great.
I've personally loved Riviera Gold. I just thought it was so well done.
I hope people like it. It's silly and it's light and it's a good beach read. And, I had fun with it because honestly, we all need a bit of escapism right now, don't we?
We do. This is a perfect escape.
If you're not dark or stormy or nightly, you can have fun with Riviera Gold.
Yes. Laurie, we thank you again, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, you 3.
The Mary Russell series is one of my favorites. I can't wait for the next episode. The Beekeeper's Apprentice locked me in really well. The story progresses through the series. It's one of the most well-written mystery series that I can name off the top of my head.
Wow, that's saying a lot. We've read and actually even had on the show different people who have done their version of Sherlock Holmes.
And some are amazing.
Just when you think that they can't twist it a little different but still maintain the integrity of Holmes, she has done that. It's a little different because Mary Russell is really the protagonist of the book.
Sherlock Holmes is sort of a side character.
But it has the Holmes vibe, even the cadence, I would say, as far as just very well put together mysteries with these other characters that play a part. They travel around. It's a great series.
We thank Laurie for joining us and we wish her all the best.
New and noteworthy.
First up is Double Trouble by Gretchen Arthur. It's the 9th book in the Davis Way Crime Caper series. It is being published by Honorary Press, and it will be available today, June 9th. Davis Way Cole smells trouble when she's fired from half of her part-time job at the Bellissimo Resort and Casino in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Also coming out today on June 9th is Firing Point by Mike Maiden. It's number 29 in Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan universe, number 13 in the Jack Ryan Jr. series. It's put out by G.P. Putnam's Sons. Jack Ryan Jr. is out to avenge the murder of an old friend, but the vein of evil he's tapped to may run too deep for him to handle in the latest electric entry in the number 1 New York Times best-selling series.
And I have Death in Her Hands by Otessa Mosfeh. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It comes out June 23rd by Penguin Press, a novel of haunting metaphysical suspense about an elderly widow whose life is upturned when she finds an ominous note on a walk in the woods. Trivia! The Cat Who series was written by Lillian Jackson Braun. How many novels in that series did she publish before her death in 2011? A, 74, B, 37, C, 29, or D, 16? And the answer is C, 29.
That's what I would have guessed, but it would have been a total guess.
This week's question. A Study in Scarlet by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle spanned 2 continents. What American group features in this story? A, the Mormons, B, the 49ers, C, Cowboys, or D, Native Americans? Good luck.
Our newsletter just came out, and I hope the ones who have subscribed are enjoying it. And we're very excited because our very first true crime short story was published in this one.
Robin Bearfield sent it to us. She hails from Alaska, and she writes about all kinds of true crime that takes place in Alaska, and it's very interesting. Website is robinbearfield.com.
So if you have not subscribed, you might want to get on that, and you can do that by going to our website, which is www.darkstormybc.com.
Don't forget to look at our Patreon. We have lots of nice incentives for people to patronize us, and we appreciate each and every patron.
And we're working on some extra content for our patrons.
We look forward to having that extra content out there. So that brings us to the end of another episode. We hope you enjoyed Laurie R. King. Hope you'll join us next week. And remember,
life would be boring without a little mystery.
Bye.